Hey, welcome to the 195th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patrons Jamie Sadler, Tamar, and Tim Morrill. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Unlow. Today we're doing our end of the year roundup with a bunch of pals. We've got Carlyn Hudson, Roxy Shih, and Tim Nakashi in the house. We're going to talk about the end of the year and the beginning of the next.
Yeah, I found that the entire discussion, I was trying to get everyone else to admit that their year has been unsatisfying creatively, and nobody would agree with me. Everyone had great years.
I think I was unsatisfied, right?
You were mildly unsatisfied, but I was unsatisfied with how much you were unsatisfied.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can tell how badly my life sucks, but I'm just oblivious to it.
No, I wish you were. I was trying to commiserate more. But anyway, it's a really fun conversation. Roxy, Carlyn, Tim, they're all doing really awesome things this year, and I don't know, it was just real fun. I also think we finished like 3 bottles of wine.
Sure, I don't remember
during that conversation.
Yeah, no, that's it's such a wonderful group, and I didn't realize that they all sort of knew each other. So that was really fun as well. I think, it's a fun tradition to do the end of the year roundup and for it to be a little looser and a little more like a kind of like a unwinding of the year. So it's a real treat.
Do you think we're lucky that we get to talk about what we do in detail with friends and wine so often?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a lot of
lucky.
filmmakers get that opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the only thing that isn't about luck is that we really have worked basically every day for close to 5 years cultivating that. So it didn't happen on accident or out of nothing. But yeah, I'm intensely grateful that we get to do that. And also, I think my parents both loved their jobs to varying degrees, depending on the day of the week, but didn't find the same joy that we do in connecting with other people who did that and shared that vocation. We're lucky that our lives are our art, are our passions, are our work.
Yeah. Sometimes they take it for granted that we talk to other filmmakers. I'm like, yeah, that's it's like you're talking to your colleagues. Everyone does that. But then I keep running into filmmakers that are like, oh yeah, I listen to your podcast because I don't talk to other directors, and it's where I get my different perspectives on what I'm doing.
Wasn't that the point of the show?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I lost track of it.
Well,
anyhow, thank you for listening. We really appreciate you all. We appreciate our patrons most of all. If you go to patreon.com/justshootitpod, you can become a patron too. If you pledge $10, you'll get a Just Shoot It hat. Then you'll be all the talk of your filmmaker group. If you have a filmmaker group, if you're just one person, then the hat will keep you company.
I'm going to endorse the $1 a month patron as well. I think those are my two favorites are the hey, a drop in the bucket, or hey, I want a hat.
Yeah, and to be clear, the $1 a month endorsement is a paid endorsement.
That's true. That's 100% paid. But yeah, no, I think look, every little bit counts, and I think that there is something genuinely uplifting for us about seeing the number of patrons increase. The total amount is really wonderful as well. I'm not putting that down by any means, but seeing incremental growth in the number of people that are a part of this community is really fun and helps us keep going.
Yeah. Did you notice that we have one patron that pledges $1.23 a month?
I bet that's a Patreon thing. I bet that's because that's probably the percentage of money that they take out or something like that.
I don't know. I think they just...
That sounds high, though, actually.
1, 2, 3. No, everyone
that's
else
funny.
is 10, 1, 4, 6, 10, 10, 10, 20, 4, 1, 1, 2. This person has 123.
I had not noticed that. No, that's great.
Their credit card also got declined. So. They could be a bot. Who knows?
Or I think Patreon, actually, to their credit, Patreon has had issues with international people as well. So it could just be one of our friends who doesn't.
Just some mild xenophobia going on at Patreon.
Ugh, I hope not.
Anyway, let's talk to our very good friends, Roxy, Carlyn, and Tim. Before we get into the show, we're going to tell you about our sponsor, MusicBed, by talking to their owner, Daniel McCarthy.
It's obvious that you hop onto MusicBed, you can tell that the caliber of artists are super high, right? And I think that our listeners are really conscientious of making sure that like the people that they're collaborating with, even if it's online, are really well taken care of. Is there an equitable profit share?
Yeah, one of the things is we are artist friendly, so the artist receives the majority of the royalty. I think another thing, just as far as how we collaborate with our artists, we sign them because we fell in love with their music at some level, their sound, and there's some sort of magic, right? We always talk about that. Like there has to be some level of magic so that they begin to understand a filmmaker at a deeper level and ultimately begin to create music that connects on a much better level.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks again to MusicBed for sponsoring this episode of Just Shoot It. If you want to get a free month of a MusicBed subscription or 20% off your next single song license, head to musicbed.com and use the promo code JustShootIt, all one word. Thanks. Okay, we are here with our panel of live directors, much better than the dead director panel.
This is our New Year's, like our end of the year kind of wrap up. I feel like we've done this a couple times. It's a little looser, a little boozier even.
Yeah.
This is the
Hell yeah.
the first time we've
Shout out to Rafi Fine.
Yeah,
Sent
sure.
us a 12-pack of wine.
We're going to finish all of it tonight.
We'll crack all those
Mission
open.
Yeah.
End of the
Look out.
decade.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
oh,
true.
yes.
That's true. The decade.
Oh, yeah.
We blew over.
Do you want to start over?
And none of us knew. Oh,
Goodbye to the teens. I am disappointed that like people didn't say like, "Come on, it's the teens." You know what I mean? Like
no one said
people
that.
used to say like, "Ah, it's
They
the
are
90s.
the ones that are
Yeah.
causing all the problems.
No one ever thinks about the teens. Yeah.
That's true. That's right. Well, to introduce everybody real quick, going around, we've got Roxy.
Hi.
Hi,
Roxy
Roxy.
Shih.
Happy to be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
for having me again. Happy
Might-
to be repeat offender. So.
You might know her from our live genre directors panel.
I'm just waiting for my regular podcast versus me.
And the person voted by Mark Zuckerberg as most Facebook stories ever released, ever posted.
Wow.
They actually sent you a thank you basket, right?
She has like one of those
She
gold
also got a 12
placards.
A
12
giant
thing of
fruit
wine.
basket. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that.
Wow.
Carlyn Hudson,
Hello.
back again,
Yeah, a
Can't
staple.
get rid of me. I
Just
live
shoot
here.
it staple.
and Tim Nakashi.
Okay.
It's been a minute, Tim. Actually, it's been
It
kind of a
has.
while.
Well, you're one of our oldest guests, and I
Thanks.
do mean
In age.
exactly.
In every way.
But Tim you're one of our first guests. Yeah,
That's
Really?
true.
Remember
Was
you
that
talked about
number,
that
like, 3?
OK Go music video back when
Wait,
when you
what
had
do
an
mean?
OK
Was that
Go
really-
music video career.
Was I really that one of your first guests?
I think
You were
you're
probably
like in the
like
first 20 or something.
Definitely first 20.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And we're
Wow.
we're almost at 200, so
Damn.
top 10%. And then you were both on our commercial panel, Carlyn and Tim. So
That's right.
all
That
directors
was
here.
outdoors.
Yeah.
True.
Wow.
Okay, well, let's get to it.
That's the
So
only thing I got from that.
There was pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pizza was
yeah,
good.
I
there
remember.
was
It's delicious.
a cool poster printed out.
Oh,
Oren, let's
Oren.
kick it off.
Okay.
You've got a topic for us.
Yeah, so it's almost Thanksgiving. It's going to be Thanksgiving in 2 days. And
This episode will also probably come out closer to the actual
to the end of the year.
End of
Right.
the year, yeah.
But according to Matt, Thanksgiving is pretty much the end of the year work-wise.
No. I actually think that the work year lasts kind of until like early January. Basically, like people are still kind of like you were up for a couple jobs this week, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's still commercial jobs to be had as people are spending down their budgets.
But they're the rush jobs, and like
Yeah.
I feel like so many of them just get canceled or pushed because people realize they're rushing into them. Like, oh, we have to spend all our money before the end of the year, and then they just like
I say,
they're
gimme.
not good.
Let's do it. Bring it on. Gimme.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, so I know it's only November, but I think it's an okay time to kind of look back at 2019. And I thought, what a better way to look at it as directors than comparing it to 2018. So feel free to answer this or not answer this. But Roxy.
Well, hold on this. I gotta tell you, my tongue feels a little numb from this chocolate.
It's poison.
I'll bring us something else after this
No,
first
this is
question.
great. I'm like, I feel great.
Did you make more money in 2019 or 2018?
You know what? At first, I thought the first half of 2019 was going super sour. And then the second half, like now in the past 6 months, I'm like, whoa, it's been a huge turnaround. And I think we've all had a very, very hard year in very different ways. I think everyone I knew was going through something. So I'm really excited to start off the new decade with like a fresh perspective and more money in the bank.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I
So
think that,
2018 was better financially than 2019.
No, 2019 was better. But it's like it came at a rush.
Yeah, Roxy, you're kind of in the middle of a hot streak. At the beginning of a hot streak, let's hope. But like, you just wrapped a movie. You're going into another one on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like you're like cranking.
And this is directing or producing?
Directing.
Holy shit.
Yeah, you basically stopped producing a couple years ago. You were like, I worked with Enlo, and now it's
Oh my
over.
God. I
can't
love
go back.
producing. I still do it. I still
I
do
didn't
it.
realize that.
Yeah, I still do it. I still produce music videos on the side. I do a lot of stuff with Little Ugly, and I still support emerging voices, emerging filmmakers, and like young women of color, and their stuff. So as long as they're like properly, funded and like we can actually make something, then I would do it, because I think it's important to do that. And I also really love producing. I'm not going to lie. Like sometimes I don't want to direct.
Oh, interesting.
It's a different type of stress, right?
Yeah. And depending on the project, it's like you got to choose your battles. So,
and so would you say that your income, this year's income is
significantly better.
significantly better, and thanks to directing?
Thanks to directing, yes.
Yeah. Now producing is kind of like a passion project sort of situation. It kind of-
Ironically,
great.
that's what it's
Good.
been. Yeah.
Cool.
It's awesome.
Okay, Carlyn, did you have a better 2019 or 2018 just from an income level?
You know, I kind of think they're similar. I bet I made just a little bit more money this year, but not by a ton. But I directed more stuff this year.
Cool. Well,
What,
you're getting ahead to my second question.
Oh, okay.
This all ties together.
Oh, I see.
What
Yeah,
about you,
Tim.
Tim?
Yeah, this year is better.
Man, I'm so jealous. This was my first year of directing full time where this was a dip for sure. But last year was very strong, and so this year is like less strong.
But it's always like that. I think it just always comes in like big waves.
Sure. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I think our listeners who are, we always kind of say our listeners are like 50% working filmmakers and 50% kind of aspiring filmmakers or people in either in film school or like
Part-time filmmakers.
or doing something adjacent to filmmaking, like they're working in an ad agency, but they want to direct more. And I think it's just important to see that the life of a director is not about like this steady climb, and it's just so much more about ebbs and flows. And
It's all about backsliding,
yeah.
Yeah.
pits of depression.
Well,
that's
and-
all part of it, guys.
Yeah, and knowing that is like part of the whole game is like you're gonna be super bummed and you're gonna be super happy. But yeah, I had like a really like my 2019 from an income level was really good, and I think it also like had like nothing in January and February, and then it just ended up being like a really good year.
You had some spots. in
Oh no,
early
actually, I had a
January.
really amazing January. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I had some dips.
But maybe like February and March, there was a slow spot for you for sure.
Yeah. So it was like a really good year financially, but I think from like a creative standpoint, and this is kind of segueing into the next question, is like, do you feel like I wanted to ask you guys if you feel like you worked on like better projects this year than last year?
Wait, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just sort of going off what you talked about in terms of those moments of nothingness. Like, I'm interested to see what everybody does in that downtime, because I know that a lot of people, especially emerging filmmakers, struggle with the anxiety of not knowing what's coming next and the potential of nothing ever happening. So I'd want to know if all of you like take time to prep for something, knowing that opportunity is just a matter of time, or do you spend your time elsewhere?
You mean like not in bed?
Well, in bed too. I think that there's always. I'm curious because how do people use that time? Everyone uses their time differently.
Sure. I mean, I think there's like the healthy way to use that time, and then maybe the more desperate or the wallowing, the more depressed version of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think everybody probably has like a balance between those two.
I suspect that no one. Well, I don't know. Whenever I talk to you guys, when I call Carlyn and she's not working on something, she's writing something.
I write all the
and
time.
Yeah, you're great at that.
Like
yeah.
you guys are really good at it, but
I basically just had the experience a few times of like coming up with an idea that didn't know what its home was going to be, and then something came up and I had this idea and it like just hit for that moment or whatever.
Wait,
And
what do you
it's-
mean? Like an idea that matches with a potential project?
Well, it'd be a music video like concept
Okay.
that like nobody was asking for.
So you have the shoebox ideas, I call them. It's just
Yeah.
like, look, this is the
Oh,
way
cool.
to.
Yeah, and so like the
You use the
feeling-
shoebox app?
Yeah, no, I don't, but we should make one. Is that one?
No, we should.
Yeah,
But like
sounds
just
good.
the like that experience of like come up with your own idea. Literally, nobody asked for it. It doesn't apply to anything, and then having that turn into something feels so good that and it's happened a few times, so that I always am like, okay, this project's done. I don't know what's coming up next, so I'll just see if I have any of those ideas and see what comes up, and that sort of feeling drives me a little bit.
But do you feel like that's a very specific way of, like, obviously these ideas that you're coming up with are like visual ideas or like editing ideas or music ideas
Stories,
or time
all
ideas.
kinds of things.
But I guess it's like if you had a feature idea and then someone offers you a commercial, then
Shoots a feature during their whole commercial. Yeah. No, but I mean, you're right. It's pretty wild. Like, you don't know where something's going to apply, but if you have a feature idea, you should be writing that fucking feature idea. So
yeah, I guess I'm just saying you've trained yourself to like to get inspired by things that easily match with other people. Whereas like if you're like, I want to have this idea about cheerleaders, and then someone's like, we need this commercial for prostate.
But I don't
medicine.
really see it that way. I don't really see it that way. Like, I don't see like, oh, I've trained myself. I mean, not that you're saying something disparaging, but like, it's not like I'm only going towards ideas that I think have applications or appeal to people. It's something that, you know, with the hope that, hey, if I'm literally blowing my own mind or whatever, maybe some other people feel that way too.
Right.
When Tim, you do a good job of like, you do documentaries, you do short form, you do features, you do music videos. So like, there's a lot of different places that an idea would fit, right? So
right, maybe,
you know,
I think to that point, I mean, it seems like everybody here is multifaceted, and like that just also feels good, you know. Like I think what we're already talking about is how do you not let your spirits get crushed during the reality of this work, and I think shifting gears all the time is like key, you know.
I guess I'm just saying if you're not the type of filmmaker that like has all these ideas that match up perfectly with projects, don't feel bad about yourself, because I think that's like a very like Michel Gondry type of filmmaker, you know, someone who can separate like the concept, that enjoys the concepts as much as the content, you know, not that they're so separate from each other, but I don't know, but that's
totally
cool.
Agree, yeah.
There's this podcast called How's Work? It's like a Gimlet Media podcast, and it's this therapist who talks to couples that aren't like together romantically but work together, and she like helps them work out their issues. And I was listening to an episode, and she was talking about how anxiety is like the opposite of creativity.
Sure.
And when you're anxious, it's really hard to be creative, and to get creative, it's like you need to be in this really open, comfortable mode. And I think I have this problem. I think, Matt, you were kind of pointing it out, but like when I'm not working, I go into like a little bit of like an anxiety state that makes it hard for me to like get inspired. So I'm like, what's the idea? What should I be writing? Like what short should I be making? But it's hard to get inspired when you're like kind of checking your email every 5 minutes to see like if there's a job coming in.
Have you come up with some solutions to that, or some things that?
No,
I have
that's
a
why we're
practical
having the
tip.
panel. Yeah.
Carlyn.
My therapist, shout out to Dr. J in Glendale.
Oh.
She has given, I seem really chill, and I am, but I too struggle with anxiety. And when I'm in those states of like, how am I going to pay my bills? Like, what am I going to do about this? Ugh. When I get in those states of mind, I put on my calendar a time to worry. So like at 2 p.m., I'll schedule 20 minutes to like freak the fuck out about bills. And I will, and even the act of putting it on my calendar of like, here is the time I've set aside in my day to freak out about this or worry about this. Usually I don't, when it gets to 2 p.m. or whatever, I don't even need that time. But just like having a place to put that and the permission to worry about it at some point really helps me.
So you're never like, let me get that out of the way now.
No, that doesn't usually work for me.
No, I mean the 2 p.m. worrying. You don't.
Oh.
How do you like? I guess to me, it's like it's hard for me to not worry.
Well, because if I'm like spiraling and I'm journaling about it or whatever, and I'm like, I really would rather be writing right now. This is not what I want to do. I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna do this later. I'm gonna set aside time later. So it's like if I'm looking at my body and I'm like, man, I wish I was more fit. I don't necessarily go to the gym right that moment, but I will schedule a Pilates class later in the week.
That sounds like one of those things that doesn't sound like it would work, but it
totally works.
For some, to me,
for me, it doesn't. I'm sure work for everyone, but it's something that I do.
I just turned my anxiety into excitement, and that's why I'm excited all the time. Or I call Enlo to have a coffee date with me, so I could just be miserable.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something about like reaching out to people who are in a similar place to you. making time, like figuring out when you're the most creative and like give yourself permission to do that work. But yeah, look, it is real, certainly, like, especially I think on short-term jobs, I think the treadmill of doing commercial work, it's really high highs. You're up for jobs all the time. The churn is just so much
Everyone
faster.
loves you.
Yeah.
Until you don't get the job.
Until you don't get the job. Yeah, sure.
And then you do get the job, and then you're wondering why you didn't get their next job,
Yeah. Yeah. And like you're like, oh, great. Well, I'm already old news then, right? And so that can be tricky, but I think sometimes maybe part of what I like to do, and this doesn't always work, and it's probably not the most healthy, but if you can use that anxiety to like think through ways to create other opportunities for yourself, that can help at least, right? Because I think part of what we're all freaked out about is that like we've got a short list of people that hire us, and if those people all aren't going to hire us for the immediate future, then it's easy to feel like, well, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, none of my friends are going to call. I know they're all working. I saw on Instagram or whatever.
See, that's the thing.
Instagram is such it's such a lie.
And you turned off your Instagram this week, and I think it's important that like, because I love to talk about unworking this comparison model on the internet, and I feel like this industry just forces us to compare ourselves to one another all the freaking time. Like, someone else gets a job, you simmer about it, and you're like, how did they get the job and I didn't? Then you have to go into their comments box and be like, congrats, man, I'm so happy for you, represent well, and and then we have to go and do that work and be like, all right, it's not, they chose him for a reason, and like I still have my path. And I just want to just deconstruct that notion of like everyone's success isn't just overnight. We all sort of have to work for it and have a discussion with each other about like how real it is that we all sort of go through the same thing, and it's not a steady climb like you said. And it's always going to be like this in a way, even if you've made it,
like the higher, like I'm always like, I want to level up, right? And we're all like trying to get to the next level, but I always joke like, but when I get my first Oscar, I'm going to be like, oh, what about the next Oscar? It's like, well, that would be the problem.
It was a weak year.
Yeah. I guess there's this fantasy that you keep leveling up until you're at a place where you just get more offers than you can do. And so then you just start picking things, and you'll never be slow, right? Because there will always be more demand than supply. But I don't know if that's really a true thing or not.
And even if it is, I think there's a certain point where also you're like, oh, well, is this the work I should be doing? Like, then if time is a premium, then all of a sudden it's like, well, should I be doing this Cheez-Its commercial? And like, I've got an incredible feature in me, and like, that Oscar was 5 years ago. What am I going to do? It takes 3 years to make a movie,
No, but Cheez-Its, I mean.
Yeah, sure.
Cheez-Its, delicious.
I
Listen,
love
your kidneys,
Cheez-Its.
braces. I get it, man.
Yeah.
But there's such a demand for content now.
Sure.
I think that, I don't know if you feel this way. I feel like I feel very privileged saying this, but like when I pitch to companies now, to other new platforms, one coming up every single day, I'm like, are you going to market this? Is anyone going to see it? Like you put your heart and soul into developing this for years.
Sure.
And it's just like a different beast now.
It is, but I just have the hot take. I don't know if this is a hot take, that it's, I think it's like inevitably the industry will be making less content again, I think.
I think it's on its way.
Yeah, and so then it becomes a question of quality over quantity, and who's going to ride out this next wave. Like people who make super quality stuff, not just like the best resume for quantity.
I would also say even notoriety, which is another slightly different way of saying quality. But like, I think all of us have worked really, really hard on things that like were for platforms that didn't end up going anywhere, and we kind of had a hunch that was going to be the case, and then it's like, well, what do we do?
No one went 90.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
I mean, I just think we're all learning that the platform that something plays on is pretty important. And, sometimes with good marketing, a platform or a channel can rise up and seem suddenly really more interesting than they were a few years ago. But there's just a lot of bullshit out there, honestly.
Yeah, and Chris McQuarrie, who tweets way too much but says some pretty smart things, said when he focuses on results, he rarely has success, but when he focuses on execution is kind of how you make good work, you know, and at the end of the day, that's like the only thing you're in control of. And yeah, I think like Matt said, we are working really hard and trying to make really good things, but a lot of times our partners are not really focused on execution. They're focused on how many views or how much money it costs or who's in it or various things that, you know, I think it's hard, especially in commercials, to make something that you think is like really perfectly executed. So career-wise, do you guys think that this year did you guys level up? Do you feel like you're on the next step of your career? I know
Roxy's nodding and
directed like 7 movies in the last week.
She's actually directing right now. It's really incredible to watch her.
Yeah. Where do you want me to put this mic?
No, it's been really incredible. I think there was a period of stagnation after I made my second feature, and then there was just a whole bunch of nothing. I got repped, and then
and how long was that stagnation, would you say?
I would say from the summer of 2017 until now.
To basically now, yeah.
Yeah, and then Post took 3 years on dark web, and that finally released this year on Amazon Prime and Comic-Con and all that stuff. And then Painkillers also released this year. So then when that started happening, I was like, oh good, at least everything that I was working on is officially out now. Yeah. And then I think I wanted to leave the genre space a little bit and explore just explore my versatility a little bit more. And then I got really lucky, got attached to Pulling to Paradise, which is the movie I'm starring on Sunday. And it's a road trip dramedy starring Jonathan Lipnicki and Trema Walker. And
did you know that the human head weighs 8 pounds?
Is my head super big right now?
No.
It is exploding.
That's a Jonathan Lipnicki joke.
Oh, never mind. I'm an immigrant. I didn't watch any of his stuff actually.
You didn't. That's a Jerry Maguire joke. That's his famous.
Never watched Jerry Maguire. It's so funny. I met with him this morning, and I was like, I never knew any of like your kid acting stuff. I just know you as you.
You haven't seen Jerry Maguire?
I haven't.
It's not that good.
I think it's pretty good.
I think it's pretty good.
When was the last time you guys watched it?
Cameron
Like
Crowe?
last year.
Okay. All right.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I
Show Me the Money.
Yeah.
You guys.
Right.
I maybe think that Cameron Crowe has only made one good movie.
Almost famous.
Almost Famous.
Which is incredible.
Almost
It's a
good.
masterpiece.
It's incredible.
Fast Times maybe gets a pass, but like
No,
Anyway.
totally. What was I?
He's the
You
kid
should-
from.
you should-
But he
Jerry
didn't.
Maguire.
Did he direct Fast Times? No,
He
he
wrote
wrote
it.
it.
He wrote it.
And
Penelope
what's her
Spheris.
name? No.
Yeah.
No. Fast Times is Amy.
Heckerling. You're right.
Heckerling.
Pardon me.
Awkward.
Crushed.
Like
Yes, so awkward.
yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
It's not
Carlyn
anything
just
embarrassing.
knew that Matt was wrong.
Yeah.
She didn't know.
Someone named Amy.
Hey everyone, the biggest movie out right now that everyone is talking about is The Irishman. It's on Netflix. It's a Scorsese flick. It's got De Niro, it's got Pacino, it's got Pesci, it's got all sorts of amazing visual effects. And we wanted to tell you about a podcast that is basically the Just Shoot It podcast of The Irishman.
Yeah, it's the official 3-part companion podcast from Netflix. The show is called Behind the Irishman. It's hosted by co-star and comedian Sebastian Maniscalco.
They go behind the scenes on costuming, on how they achieved the effects. Really a super deep dive into that movie.
It's conversations with De Niro and Scorsese about like how long it took them to actually make this movie possible, and also how they got Joe Pesci out of retirement.
Yeah.
Home Alone 15 wasn't good enough.
Please watch the movie. It's on Netflix right now before you listen to this podcast because there's a ton of spoilers. The first episode's already out and there's new episodes coming out every Monday. And this is just one of a ton of podcasts that Netflix is producing for various shows. They did one for Stranger Things. There's one coming out right now for The Crown. And this is actually their first one that's dedicated to a single film.
Yeah, so if you want to check it out, search for Behind the Irishman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts.
So do you guys... So you feel like your career is kind of taken off in 2019?
It was so weird because it's like that happened and then I got offered another movie and then I was trying to see if I could do it all, you know? So I took on this challenge to see how it goes because I'm currently in post for one and then starting another one. Then I got offered another one for first quarter next year.
And who's offering you these movies?
They're coming from all over the place. Like some from producers I've worked with years ago that I thought have forgotten about me. And then some from
and
friends,
are they seeing...
reps.
Like, I mean, you are pretty active on social media. Do you think that is a big part of why people are remembering you?
I would be a liar to say if branding wasn't a part of it. You know, I think that you really have to develop your own personal brand. And I'll be honest, and I'll say this in public, I don't think I'm that talented. Like,
Well, that's what.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no,
Roxy.
I really don't. I think
No,
that
but everyone kind of thinks that about themselves.
But I think that people just really like my vibe. And
Your point being, though, that like there are other reasons that people like to work with you. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, and it's like it's because I didn't, you know, like I didn't go to film school. I like started off as a producer, and like then I started into directing. No, this
Carlyn
isn't
and I are
supposed to
both
be.
doing like the
When you
duck
did the
face.
film,
Like,
we were like,
nah.
nah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But I think I don't want to cut you off, but I'm going to cut you off.
Thanks a lot, man.
Let her speak.
Well, but what you're saying, you're talking about imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? So I just
1,000%, yeah.
I think that like what I'm trying to say is that I think everybody feels those feelings, and that doesn't have anything to do with talent, whether you quote unquote have it or not, or whether that even exists is what I'm getting at, right? So like I think it's okay to say like, hey, there are other reasons that are really valid for why people love to work with you, and also you make good movies, but people wouldn't hire you if you didn't make good movies.
Yeah, it is the imposter syndrome. I think I'm actively still working through it after 3 movies. You know, what
but
do you
just
know?
to back Roxy up a little bit, I think
that's what I was doing. I hope I was backing.
You were.
No, you were backing her up as a talented director. But I think that there is something to, like, from me going from my first movie to my second movie, I doubt that anyone who like let me do the second movie actually watched my first movie. You know, I think there was like where it premiered, what awards it won, who was in it, and what happened with it is what got me the second movie, and just the genre and all those things.
Sure. But also the reason that it played all of those places is because it's good. So the reason that people trust that resume of things, right? Like obviously there's a lot of politics and all that other things that like make people believe that a movie is good or not, but like the quality does play a very large part in all of that, right? So in the same way that like the reason that people think you're good is because you're doing good work is all I'm saying. And like I just want listeners to hear that, right? And I want you two to hear that. I want everybody to hear that is what I'm saying.
Thanks, Enlo.
But I guess I don't think like if you make a smash hit like Game of Thrones or something where people are actively like coming, they're like, who made that? And I must find them because this is incredible. And
but it's also easy to say like, oh, well, they're just fans of the books or they already had HBO or whatever. That's in people to just dispel the good work that they're doing.
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is what I'm backing Roxy up on is not whether the work she did was good, you know, or not. It's about that it's not really enough just to do good work, I think. That she's getting all these offers coming in, not because she made Dark Web and Painkillers and all these things. I mean...
No, that's exactly my point.
Like, I haven't seen Dark Web or Painkillers, but when I saw, she did an Amazon Prime show, she did a Hulu movie, she did The Tribe, she did all these things. Like, let's have her on the podcast. You know, I mean, obviously you knew her also, but I'm saying that, and now that I'm like friends with her on Facebook, I get to see like all the other projects she's involved in and like the people she's working with. Like that is part of what makes, like if someone was like, hey, do you know a director, you know, that does these types of movies? That's like why Roxy would pop into my mind, because I'm very aware of her. It wasn't like she was just on the podcast. And I think she's really good at not just doing good work, but like keeping like that heartbeat of in people's minds.
Down what I was trying to say. I think the point of that was I don't feel like it's enough to just be a good director.
I see.
Like you have to have branding. You know, it's like, what are you good at? How what's your reputation like? What's your notoriety? You know, and people are like, she's great on set. Oh my God, you're gonna love her is what they say about me. And I'm like, okay, but I know they haven't seen my work. You know what I mean? So I think that's just sort of what I was trying to pinpoint. Yes, imposter syndrome. I think we all have that.
We all have that. And for the record, women and people of color have even more.
Yeah.
Sure.
Statistically.
I'm sure.
Right.
But also I think it's your voice. That's also coming across in this branding and the notoriety. But, you know.
Right. If you're a real dick, don't post yourself on social media.
Yeah, but I mean, I think like in your comedy or in the way you might talk about something or what you share and the way you share it, I feel like those things, at least I would like to think that when I do it, in some way or another expresses my voice, you know. And that's, I think, also appeals to people, or it doesn't. Maybe they hate it, but
Yeah, I think there's like a list of like 10 things that would get you more work without you doing anything additional. Like if you win an Oscar, like if you win Sundance, you know, if you win TIFF, if you have the biggest script sale of all time or something, you know, like those are the things that get people to get you. Maybe if you're on the blacklist or something, but I think 95% of the good work that we do, if you directed an amazing episode of The Good Wife, I don't think that means 100 people are coming to find who you are, you know?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Like
Mostly because the Good Wife's
recognition
not on TV
does
anymore.
speak volumes for people, but
We're just trying to say you are talented. We love you.
We love you.
Well, Carlyn, what about you? I mean, you've been here for 2.5 years now, something like that?
No, I've been in LA like over 4 years, but I've known you maybe 3.
Okay.
You've gotten it so messed up, dude.
Well,
a big
somehow I
friend.
feel, doesn't Carlyn feel like new to LA still somehow?
no.
Carlyn,
No.
you just moved
I'm
here.
so
What are your
enmeshed.
first impressions?
The show is like 4 years old, and Carlin's been on it
A
30
lot.
times.
Too many times.
Well, okay. Well, how do you feel? Because I feel like you
Wow.
had some big things happen this year, but you also had big things happen last year.
Well, last year I don't quite know if I think I made slightly more money this year, but maybe not. I don't know. I've definitely directed more work that I'm proud of this year, and I'm working with an Oscar-nominated producer developing my next feature. I got a Sundance rejection today.
Oh,
Hey, congratulations.
It was so nice.
for a script or
Cheers.
For a short.
Okay.
I directed 2 shorts this year that are like high quality.
that you wrote also.
No, but I
Oh.
didn't. But I was
Yeah,
pretty
neither of them,
involved.
right?
Neither of
Yeah,
them I wrote.
yeah.
Written
How did they
pilots.
find you? The short people.
Well, one of them, my friend Anna Feinberg, she has like a deal at Showtime, whatever. She wanted to write something that I would direct that our friend Kelly would produce. And so we all kind of got together and like tossed around ideas, and we picked this one. And the other one was College Humor People.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But it was outside of the College Humor
Yes.
ecosystem.
Yes. No, but this has been. I also directed like a GIF spot, which I don't have that many
think
huge
it's
brands
GIF.
on my reel. It's GIF,
It's
but
GIF.
hilarious for you. That's the whole joke of the spot.
Oh,
was
really?
Oh.
GIF versus GIF. So
I should be a creative
noise.
director.
Yes, you should. It's been. I think for me creatively, it's been a big year, like a really big year.
Also, you know, your feature, you feel like you got into really good shape, and like,
Yes.
you've been on a lot of meetings,
Mm-hmm.
which I think maybe is validating creatively as well.
Yeah, I just am. I really feel like writing is a big part of my path, which sucks because it's fucking hard and lonely. You're just like, what am I doing? But it is something you have control over, and it's free. And so I'm glad to have discovered this part of my voice and the path that I'm on, because I want to keep writing features, and I'll write more pilots. But you know, I'm not just a director. I'm a writer, director / creator, which is a different thing, you know?
I want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned finding your voice. Do you feel like that's something that coalesced this year? And if so, why?
Is it found?
Yeah. Did you?
I think it's
Find
going to
it?
keep changing.
Sure.
Is what I really, this year I've just decided to put all my personal stuff out there.
Cool.
Much to the chagrin of my exes and my mother for the next project I'm doing, and other stuff. But yeah, I'm just honing in on like what makes me unique and doing, and that's, you know, we all have stuff that makes us unique. So I'm just working on finding that and like leaning hard into that. Like, what about my feature? Even though it is based on a true story that's not about me. How do I see myself directly in my protagonist? Which it's pretty startling how much we have in common. Even though she was like a 17-year-old girl in West Virginia when we start, you know, when the story takes place. But yeah, I feel like I have started to find my voice this year, because I've also started to find me as a human.
Aww.
Sorry.
I love it when that happens.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Growing.
We're all growing.
Glow up, girl.
We're all
Always
growing up.
learning.
That's cool. Yeah, we were,
Yeah.
before we started recording, we were talking about a friend we have in common that has been working for this company for a couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. And like writing and directing and producing and making a living. And it's like a very famous company that everyone has heard of. And now she just left the company. She got repped by big agents and managers as a writer. Mm-hmm. But so she's probably making like much less money and has much less
Yes.
of a structured life and much less. So it's like on one hand, it's like this giant leap forward, but on the other hand, it's probably like anxiety inducing.
Totally. But I'm always thinking about the long term, and my short term finances have always suffered because of that. But I do feel with each passing year, I'm getting closer and closer to my goals, to the things I know that I'm going to achieve.
I always think about something that Payman Benz talked about, maybe not on the podcast, but there's no shortcuts, basically, right? Like, so it's easy to kind of be seduced by those short-term, quick, fast money jobs. And like, look, everyone has to take those sometimes. It's okay. But also like the long-term play is kind of the only real one. Like at a certain point, you just burn out and you can't cash in the same way that you thought you could once upon a time.
Yeah.
I can't wait till you guys all have kids, or if you want them. And,
And
I
I don't have bills now.
and see that. No, it's not bills, but it's like
No, it's different.
your obligation.
It is different, sure.
to pay, $1,500 a month for a private preschool
Yeah, sure.
is, or whatever it is in LA,
Yeah.
And I mean, there isn't like a public option, You can either be like a stay-at-home parent, or you can pay
Oh, it's totally
a ton
it's
of
totally
money
different thing
a month.
when you
and-
have kids and people depending on you financially.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
so the work is like a little more, like making money, it just seems a little bit more critical. But what about you, Tim? So you've been on our podcast for like 4 years, a few different times. Obviously, you do commercials and music videos. You made like an amazing short last year, 2 years ago?
2 years ago now, yeah.
2 years ago.
Thanks.
Like I kind of like, you're kind of like me, I think, where I feel like I see you do these giant things, and then you're kind of hanging out, and then you're walking around Silver Lake, and then you're getting really busy again, and then
Can be found
and your work is like,
places.
I think your work is like undeniably like amazing. Like I've shown your videos to so many people, like the
Oh,
Ray-Ban
thanks.
spot, like the OK Go video, like your short film. I submitted it to Sundance under my own name.
Oh, great. How'd we do?
Did you get a rejection today
we got
too?
in, but then I felt weird going, so I don't want to.
Yeah. That's fair.
I wish you did.
No, but what's so like? How do you?
How's that feature script going, though? Good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we did.
Okay.
I sold the
Did
rights.
you pitch it? Oh, great. Keep me posted.
But how's your year? I mean,
The year was good. I mean, it was a weird year because I kind of worked on a lot of commercial. I'm sort of still new to commercials. I feel like I'm still new to commercials in a way because I was just doing a lot.
you've
of
only
music
been doing them
videos.
for like
Carlyn's, like,
6 years.
rolling
I'm like,
eyes.
are you fucking kidding me? You've directed so many huge
Carlyn's
commercials.
a human emoji, right?
Yeah,
I'm just like-
I guess that sounds weird to you, but like I've
It
done
does
a
sound
far
weird to
more
me.
music videos.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure. So relatively speaking, most of your career is music videos. and then
Yeah,
you
it's
moved
sort
into
of all I
commercials
know.
But
Of
isn't a
working
music
as
video
director.
just 6 commercials edited back to back?
Exactly.
Music videos are
it
exhausting.
used to be art, but
They're
now
so
it's
weird.
just 6 commercials back to back.
Like I just heard from somebody tonight about like a really big video, and I was talking to the manager, and there's something that's so different. The whole animal of music videos, as you know, is so different, and you know too. Like you have somebody, they're saying what they want, and you have to go in your mind immediately and say, what are they saying? Do they mean what they're saying? And why is it that they're saying that? Because all of these things are going to lead you to like the really what you should even be considering before you get creative and come up with a 3-minute silent movie that's going to go to their song or whatever.
And I think you taught us, like, the first time you were on, you said sometimes, like, you find out that, like, one of the band members really wants to go to Japan or something. So, like, try to incorporate,
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
that into your
Well, I
pitch.
definitely, if you, something memorable should be a part of your video pitch. I mean, but that's all I was really saying. And because, I had somebody say, oh, yeah, you pitched me ideas. Was it the one where I'm going to go to Japan? That's what I want to do. And I was like,
Oh,
no,
wow.
it was just something else. I forgot. Let's not talk about it. But, it was a good year. So anyway, just doing commercial stuff. But, commercials are less gratifying, to be honest. But I did do one really creative commercial. And I hate to say it because it was for McDonald's in Europe. But it was like, by far, I'll never do a cooler commercial.
But Tim's still new at commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I know
You
that
just
sounds
did a
crazy, but
I'm pretty sure it's called a
McDonald's.
McDo.
yeah,
McDo?
that's true. That's what they. Is that what they do?
But
McDo.
McDonald's is pretty good in Europe. It's much better.
Yeah, it tastes just like home.
Tastes just
Yeah.
like home. but better.
Yeah, they put more beef in their French fries.
What made this spot so special?
Well, basically, they were like, we just wanted to have somebody walk in to get the new burger that they're offering in Europe and stuff. And I'm vegetarian, so that's great. But basically, I was like, well, okay, cool. Let's do this like video collage thing. And basically, I could tell they were almost like a little bit nervous about it, which is always a good feeling. And then I couldn't believe it. They went for it, and then we shot.
It's not the one where it's like each country has their own burger.
No.
What do you mean by video collage thing? Or maybe you just show me later.
I'll show you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's like somebody's walking and their head's in one context and their torso's in a different, and then they do a spin and suddenly they're in a different one.
How cool.
You are like a Michelle Gondry. You're
Yeah.
Poor man's. Yeah. Thanks.
I would say like upper middle class man.
Thank you. Okay, cool. I'll take that.
Yeah.
That sounds so rad.
It was.
know.
I have to say, thanks. I mean,
Yeah.
I have to say, it was like, I hate to say that was like probably one of the most creative things I got
That's
to do
fucking
this
cool.
year. But
To be able to do that with such
Can
a
I
big
just say something
corporation.
else?
Like,
Do you want to take back that commercials? You don't like
just that
commercials?
one. The other ones were like, all right, but like,
Also, you've been writing.
oh no, yeah. I mean, I feel like I've had a good year because for similar. It's on topic because I've been writing a script and I feel like it's very close, and that has been like making me feel like I could do any kind of work in the meantime, because this feels like it's going to go somewhere. And, since we're talking about like what we've been up to, I had somebody approach me from an agency about like this graphic novel that, would I want to like read it and write a treatment and maybe let's turn this into a show. And I have to say that has never happened to me. I've never had anybody at any agency contact me for any reason.
That's so exciting.
And yeah, it's exciting.
Wait,
So
and how did they find you?
they saw one of my videos and they liked
A
the
music
artist.
video?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the one with the mirrors?
No.
Oh.
What's the mirrors?
I don't know. Everyone's on the mirrors.
yeah. No, it's this.
He forgot his own work.
Neon
Dua
Indian.
Lipa?
It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
Neon Indian video.
Oh, cool.
The one
Cool.
where
He's
it's
from
like,
Austin, so
that's
Yeah.
true.
Well, is he really
I
in
think
you?
I know that video. It's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
The artist made it like so cool because he just was down for like crazy stuff, and we kind of collaborated.
when did
on
you direct that?
it 4 years ago.
That's crazy. That's
I
a
thought
good
so,
example
too.
of like you never quite know like the seeds you're planting now how they're going to pay off in the future.
Yeah.
You never know.
I completely agree, because I think as a director you feel a little bit like you made something, it already took 2 years
Yes.
for it to get out or whatever, and you're just embarrassed and you're just like, this wasn't even that good, and
Right.
then
I'm
we
a
didn't get the
different
money,
person
and
now.
all the creative ideas fell through our hands, and now it's years later or whatever, months later, and then to think someone stumbled on it and was like, this person, I would like to spend some of my business time reaching out to them. Like, to me, anyway,
So
I thought
cool.
So,
that's good.
Roxy, do you think if Tim spent more time online, like telling people he directed these things, kind of building his own brand, that this stuff would happen more often or faster?
What?
Well, because I think
Well, you don't know
I'm kind of wrapping back around to the other thing, but it's something that I've been thinking about lately. I've been kind of posting more stuff lately, and I think it hasn't led to more jobs, but it's led to like more conversations. And
Well, I think it's important to point out, though, that what Roxy is doing is still authentic to her personality and voice. It's not like someone's twisting your arm to like be effusive on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like Tim, if I was like, hey man, I need you to update and like talk directly to the camera and like tell us what you're doing, like do what Roxy does, you would maybe not like it the same way, right? So I think it's more just like, what is the thing that every director does best is part of it. And that's not to say that, I guess there's just a lot of different ways to skin the cat is all I'm saying.
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, doesn't Instagram pay you guys for your posts?
100%. Can I
Just making sure.
And devil's advocate, I'm going to say I've recommended this in the podcast before, but Cal Newhart's Deep Work, there is an argument to be made that social media, the good that it does not at all outweigh the benefits of logging off and getting into a deep creative mindset.
Sure.
It depends.
Are absolutely necessary.
Yeah, it just depends what you're at. It's like there's not. It's kind of like 6 dozen, whatever that expression is.
I think when we're talking about branding yourself separate. We're not saying like, hey, scroll
Spend
through
more
Instagram.
time.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a slightly separate conversation.
This is maybe like not what you're looking for as an answer, but like you made like a really cool reel of your work, right? In the last year, that was like a comment on reels.
It was
Yeah.
so good.
What was it?
Thanks. I
Yeah.
called it the director's reel.
And what was, remind me.
It was like me talking about what makes a good reel and why, or how director's reels are so difficult to edit, because it's not just about imagery. It's about, half of it is about like kind of pitching what celebrities you've worked with, and the other half is about trying to show that you can tell a story, but in like 3 seconds, which is very difficult.
But you
thing
kind
to
of
do.
make a joke about making a reel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you start with the celebrity, then you do
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah,
your
and
video
then I'm
is
like-
guiding it.
Yeah, I'm like, by the way, you just, if like in worst case scenario, just show every single type of thing, so people will hire you to do every single type of thing. And
I just think that it's smart to have a strategy with everything, especially if you're marketing your own material. It's like people want to know what your story is, and they want to know, oh, where'd you come from, or like your background when you're at meetings. They want to know about you. They know you're talented. They know that you spend time on your project, but it's always just like, who's the person telling it? So I learned this because I was just like, well, honestly, I realized my first couple pieces of work, no one was really watching. They didn't really care about that. And then it's like after I started learning, how I promote, because, coming from the producing background, it's like from an indie space, it's like, how do you get more eyes on it? So I think that just sort of bled into my being. And as a filmmaker now, as a director, is that's just become a part of it.
Right.
And I found it very effective because then I've built all these relationships in, my community, the festival community, and all of that people are actually watching now. So then, and if you're including everybody in on it, then it becomes a more inclusive conversation, and then you're making more of an impact. So just like this, like just shoot it. I think that is a whole part of that as well.
Right. Yeah. I would say it's kind of the same. It's a different version of the same tactic.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like talk about yourself in a way that hopefully is not obnoxious,
Yeah, who's writing your bio on your website? Everyone's writing in third person.
Exactly.
Can you write it for me?
I will. Carlyn is amazing.
I guess what I'm saying is I
I
think
like it.
Thank you.
just on this topic, like I just want people to have permission to like promote themselves, because I do think like Tim, your work is, everyone here has really good work, but your work specifically I've like shown to so many people in a way that I
Like
don't.
yours is actually good.
No, no, I
He's
think
a
it's
new
like
commercial director, however.
I think certain
You
things.
hate that I said that.
I'm just fucking with you.
Freaking
I
it.
did
I
say
love you,
I
Tim.
feel. I did say
I
I
love you,
feel
Tim.
like
Like no, but literally that McDonald's commercial you described, I'm like, oh fuck, like I wish I did that commercial, and that's the only thing I would need to show people to get a job from now on. But and to Matt's point, like of course you have to be authentic. You shouldn't be like, hey, here's a picture of me on set that I just took, and then it's really from like 7 years ago because you took 50 pictures and you're saving one for each week on Instagram. Like
I don't have a problem with that.
That's
but
a
like,
good plan.
But the
you're saying personality wise, like Tim's not like, hey, look at me.
yeah,
Or
or
he's not a look
Are
at
you-
me, but he's like, hey, I had this cool idea. He could either tell me at, Ohana Poke Factory or whatever, or you can like put it on Instagram or on Twitter. And
Are you kind of saying you don't think I promote myself enough?
What are you trying to say? He's just trying to kiss
honestly,
your ass.
no, honestly, I'm trying to, I'm doing, it's a big buildup so this doesn't come as an insult.
Oh boy!
No.
Damn! Now I'm
But I think that what did you just get
hey,
offered?
thanks for
this
listening to Just Shoot It podcast.
this graphic novel offer. I bet you would have gotten that like 2 years ago if you were showing people all your stuff, all the time.
Right.
But you're just
Does
like
he not show
a
his
very
stuff?
humble person. He doesn't ever promote it in the way that,
Oh, time out though. I think
hey,
separate.
but that's kind of you to say. I mean, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think maybe let's open it up a little bit more, because I think that like there's always the question of like who's paying attention to what. Like I think the reason that I saw that spot that you're talking about, that McDonald's spot, is because you posted it on Instagram.
Yeah, I posted it.
Yeah. So like I think it's more
Oh,
like
yeah, Oren.
like there's the luck of like who's online when who people are posting whatever, right? But I think like in a more abstract sense or in a more universal sense, like you're just saying that like everyone has to find a different way of authentically, but like with purpose, promoting themselves. Basically,
yeah,
is
I
what
think
you're getting at.
it's a combination
You-
of good work and good marketing.
I mean, there is a real question because I think to me, I'd be like, oh yeah, like people are aware of you, Roxy, but like that's not the reason that they're hiring you. You're on a hot streak. Like you're pitching things. You've got a lot of material. Like this is a long time coming, right?
Yeah.
But it is frankly impossible to really understand the subliminal effects of a person's social media presence, that heartbeat that we're talking about, of like just keeping you top of mind. Isn't a thing that we can really be aware of. But like it's probably 95% the work and 5% like, oh yeah, Roxy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, now that Instagram, because I usually mostly use Instagram as the form of showing everybody what I'm up to, it's like the stories really help. And sometimes creating like a story within the story, like being creative about what you're posting, not over posting and being obnoxious about things. And also making sure that your activities are diverse, that you're out supporting other people, that you're also ingrained in the community. I think there's so many ways to be creative about that, because at the end of the day, it's about engagement. And I think like being so lucky to work with so many different people and learn from so many different people in terms of marketing your material, marketing yourself, marketing your voice, and marketing what it is you want to see attracts everything towards you. But yeah, there was 2 years of stagnation though.
Right.
I'm not going to lie. Like I just took up producing jobs and killed myself over producing music videos.
I think what we're really talking about though is that it's just an additional way that maybe we don't think about as filmmakers with a capital F, of like how to build more work for yourself, right? Like it's another thing you can do. Carlyn.
I mean, actually, I've talked to you about this, Roxy, but I think what Roxy's doing well, and what I would argue Tim is doing well. Hot take.
Thank you. Ready for this?
Is when I was a younger filmmaker, I thought that I would get work by doing all sorts of things. Like I can direct docs, I can direct drama, I can direct comedy, and I think that is so wrong. That is not how you get work. You get work by doing one or two things, or one thing really well. And so like the kind of stuff that you direct in your voice, and so that is why. If I were hiring, I'd be like, oh, I have this like cool, like sexy thriller with like maybe people of color in it. I would call you. I sure as fuck wouldn't call me. That's not what I have in my reel. But like, I think it's about honing that like one specific or like what's your sandbox? What's your specific sandbox, so that when a project comes across my desk, I think of the specific person for it. Because if you're a person that can do anything, then no one's going to think of you for one specific thing.
Yeah.
True.
Did you hear that, Oren?
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with everyone, and I don't know. I guess I just sometimes when I see someone who does really good work, and I think like, oh, that person's like taken off, and then it's like 2 years later, and they're still kind of doing the same thing. Because
it's not fair. The industry is not equitable. Also, like, I had that short. Whatever, this like nice ass short that did like killed in the festival circuit. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get all the jobs. I for sure didn't. It just doesn't work that way. It's like, sure, if I was Mariel Heller and I directed like what's that movie? Fuck, her first movie. That one.
Secret Teenager.
Like maybe she got jobs right after that, but I think in general it doesn't work that way. Like it ebbs and flows. You get hot and then you don't, and then you're out for more jobs, and it's just this kind of like this ocean, like waves are coming in and out, and you just have to kind of ride it.
Yeah, and not only is she super talented and had done a ton of things before that, but she was also very plugged in.
She was true.
But,
and she's good. And I think her last movie was one of the best movies of that year.
Which
we're having the writer on December 4th. Wait,
no. Oren, you're talking about the Mr. Rogers movie.
Really?
How Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Yes.
It was really
That
great.
Can You Ever Forgive Me? It was incredible.
It's really great.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did no one talk about this? It's such a perfect
film.
know.
It's so solid.
It's so
all
good.
of the performances are incredible.
She was nominated for an Oscar, right? Melissa
Yeah,
McCarthy?
but just a screenplay or something. It just
it was small.
Best supporting actor.
I think Nicole Holofcener was supposed to direct that movie.
Yeah, and she didn't. She wrote it instead.
Oh, that's right.
Anyways.
Okay, well, so final question is what's your plan for next year?
Why are you so bad at directing?
No, what's you've seen kind of this year. It sounds like it was good for everyone. I guess the answer I was looking for, which is my answer, is like I had some really cool jobs that paid really well, but I feel like from a creative standpoint, I like 2018 better. I just feel like I made more interesting things, and I felt like I want to course correct a little bit more, and still do commercials, of course, but like try to find the more meaningful things where like I get to do the execution I want instead of the execution that like 40 people in at Video Village want.
I would say, just to back you up a little bit though, Oren, I think some of my favorite spots of yours you did this year. I feel like you had a really strong year.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like I found some spots that I can connect with in a cool way, but I still feel like when I look back at like what they add up to and like where it leads to, it's like 10% better than my reel was last year, and it just felt like a small incremental advancement as opposed to like, oh, I'm super excited about this. And it turned into, because I was kind of doing slightly bigger spots, it's turned into more of like a chase of commercial jobs, as opposed to like, oh, I'll do a commercial if it's right, but otherwise I have these other things I'm really excited about.
Yeah,
they kind of replaced the exciting jobs for me.
The chase is a real gear shift. I think that like everyone goes through at a certain point, and I think I'm in the roughest part of it right now, where like, you used to just get jobs not without trying, but like they were easier, right? And then slowly, as you get bigger and better, all of a sudden you're up against people with bigger, better reels than you. And so like now it's like a struggle to get shortlisted in a way that it used to be like, well, yeah, of course I'm like on the list. It's fine. Like I basically already have this job. But they were small. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like teeny, like they were like the beginner, like the early. Right. And so now that can be demoralizing, right? But I think what we're also kind of all circling around a little bit is that there's a lot of different ways that you have to make your own work and express your own voice, whether that's like doing an Instagram story or writing or like putting something away in the shoebox. So I think that that's the thing that you just have to constantly remind yourself of, and I think is kind of maybe the most important thing about the show. Is just like, oh, don't forget, like do your own stuff.
Yeah, don't wait for the offers, which I feel like 2019 was my year of like waiting for offers, despite the title of our podcast.
Sure.
Also, like filmmaking is just something that you just get better at the more you do it.
Yes.
Especially directing. It's like.
And writing, my God.
Oh, I mean, 1,000%.
Somebody was like, well, this is your first script that you've written, the one that all these fancy people read. I was like, are you kidding me? You think this is the first script that I've written? There are 3 that I would never let anyone read because they're garbage.
But don't tell them that.
I didn't, but I was like,
this is my first.
Trust me.
I'm a genius.
I've written some shitty
We had this
stuff.
guy on the podcast that the first 2 scripts he wrote were on the blacklist.
Okay, well, fuck that guy. Seriously?
I just feel like it cannot possibly be true.
That can't be true.
I think maybe that person is better at branding themselves and that they threw a bunch away that they don't really count.
Yeah.
And I, like, even the script that I'm making now, my producer, eventually she was like, when I first read your script, I was like, I have to make this movie. But then I reread it and I thought, the story has a lot of problems.
Oh, my God.
But her voice is so strong.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, okay,
I guess.
Take
it as a compliment.
I took it as a compliment because I was like, wow, my voice is so strong that it's like, it was such a fun read that you want to make the movie. But I was like, yeah, the story has problems.
That's
sure.
Also,
all stories have problems.
Right.
I love everyone. And also, I think most people reading scripts don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like no one really knows until they made the movie. And Tim, 15 years ago when you were first on our podcast,
yes,
it's getting longer and longer.
You made a joke about how like sometimes
about Y2K. That's
about
right.
Y2K. Yeah, you were like, I'm curious to see where this Lost show goes.
Oh yeah, exactly.
No, you're saying about how sometimes you feel like you're the only person who knows about the video you're making. Like sometimes the producer's just like, hey, how's it going? And you're like, okay, but like, how come you don't know?
Well, yeah, it's like the difference between commercials and videos sometimes, that kind of thing. Where it's like the commercial, you have 16 people in a focus group by committee telling you if you press the right comedy button or whatever. Whereas in a video, halfway through the shoot, my producer would come over and be like, how are we doing? Are we getting it?
Yeah,
What's up with the projector? And you're like, that's the idea, you know.
Or like, do you mind if I leave after?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That too.
But I think that's kind of true almost always. Even when you're in a commercial situation and everyone's like, you know, micromanaging you, like you're probably the person they're hiring you because you're the best person at execution. Like if they could do your job, they would love to do it for you instead. Sometimes they do, you know.
I don't know. Yeah. Commercials are weird.
Yeah, but just in general, I guess what I'm saying is like someone can read a script from you, Carlyn, and be like, "Oh, this is incredible." Oh, maybe not. But like until you make it and prove to them that it's incredible, like they're all mostly just guessing. There's a few people.
Or yes, however, they were reading like a second or third draft, and my story had problems. Like I needed
That's
development.
true. Yeah.
You know?
You're not a perfect writer, of course,
No,
but like,
no.
but what I'm saying is that like sometimes you just have to go for it.
Yeah, and it's hard to know, and I still haven't figured it out, and I assume it's a lifelong journey of when to stop accepting notes and just make the thing you want to make. It's hard, and there's no like really. It's like when you're getting feedback on your shorts or your features, and you have those note sessions, and you're like, "Oh my God, you're right. Oh my God, Tim, you're right. Oh shit!" And then you go home and you're like, "What do I do?
Right. Sure.
This is crazy. Like, how do I connect back to the thing that I want to make? Because this is my third draft with the two studios involved with my feature, and I started rereading it, and I was like." Yeah, the voice that they all signed on for in the first draft they read is gone.
Oh, no.
And what do I do? Not totally gone, but like a percentage gone. Because it's just like because when you go into like 10 hours, I had like a 4-hour notes meeting on Monday. And I was just like,
oh my God, that must have
what do
been
I do?
so
You know?
demoralized.
So you have to connecting back to that voice that got you excited about in the first place is tough.
We've been in table reads together where you'll do the thing where you'll buy everybody pizza and everyone will come on over and we'll all go around in a circle and talk about how we hated the movie that you just wrote. And
filmmaking is so fun.
Oh my God.
but I think about the people that know enough to do real damage all the time. All the time.
Wait, what do you mean?
There's
Like,
always
they're-
these like devil's advocate people too, and I'm like, okay, Jim.
Yeah, they're
With your
smart.
devil's advocate
They're smart.
opinion.
They probably have a couple screenplays under their belt, but they're ready to just like fuck your shit up.
Destroy it.
Oh.
Yeah. And with the best
Jim's
intentions.
not coming to
for
my
sure.
table reading.
Well, those people exist in commercials too, right? That they actually why don't we? And you're like, God, why does there have to be the actually guy? You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as a general rule, like if the note excites me, then I will take it. And if the note is like should technically start with the phrase, if I was making this movie, I would do this, then I can ignore it, you know, because you are not making this movie. You know?
What if you, in the back of your mind, know that they're right about like something you wanted to fix? Like, you're right.
I've
I
never
knew
had
it.
that feeling.
That nagging feeling.
What?
Yeah, you've never had it, Oren.
I do think you have to do what you feel. I mean, I think if you're getting a note or two and you don't agree with them, I mean, there's like sort of a tipping point where you can't do too many. You should not do too many notes that you don't agree with, I think, because
Yeah, I like to get second opinions.
That's a
If they
good
started to
clue.
get the same notes from different people, then I'm like, then that's something I really have to listen to.
true.
But at the end of the day, filmmaking is not about having the right or wrong answer. It's just about a choice. You know what I mean? Because like you choose to make that decision, and you are the audience perspective for the audience you're choosing to make the film for. So it took me a long time. I mean, until I was just like not waiting for permission to be like, yes, this is my thing, which is why, I do consider myself a commercial director for whatever I'm doing right now, but I let it all out in my short films, and I still go and try and get hired on short films so that I have more freedom, where they respect me, and then they're just like, we'll let you explore this, and we are a fan of your work. And I think that's a great way to create that balance of finding that fire again without feeling like you have 20 people telling you their opinions. Then it's like voting by committee on like a certain note that just like goes around the room, because that's that just kills you and like your confidence, as a filmmaker.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question one more time. 1 paragraph answer from each one of you. What's your plan for the next decade, 2020?
For the beginning of the next...
Sorry. What's your plan for 2020?
2020, yeah.
My plan for 2020 is to take a script around and make a movie. It'll be my first movie. And to also, make some serious progress with a TV show, because this is what I've been wanting to do the whole time, is narrative work that tells the stories I want to tell in my vocabulary. And the rest of it, I just want to keep it going, make it better. I don't know.
Cool. So are you going to change anything you're doing now?
I'm going to change my branding.
I was just about to say that. Thank you.
That's this whole reason we're having this intervention.
It's Tim Nakashi, your boy here.
I'm going to...
at you live. Hit me up in the comments if you want.
Just going to humble
remember
brag.
those old flip books? I had this idea.
Oh, yeah. I have an ideas person. I have a lot of great ideas. Here's one.
You heard of a shoebox?
Tim, I want to point out, though, I love your use of the word vocabulary. I think is such a genuinely, though. Like, I'm not, like, that's such a smart way of describing style. Do you know what I mean?
We're all laughing at you. No.
I just know why you laughed. I just thought it was adorable.
No, it's a good,
Roxy,
it's
I
a good
love your
word.
vocabulary.
It's a good word for what
like,
your stuff you do.
Taste. What a
Carlyn.
night.
Real saucy. Carlyn, tell us your whole life plan.
Yeah.
Woof.
I mean,
From here till
ideally
your deathbed.
in like what you learned this year and what you're going to do next year.
God, I'm going to sound like a total asshole, but I feel like I'm doing sort of more of the same next year.
That's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, I want to, I'm so close by Christmas or Hanukkah. I don't know when Hanukkah is.
It was last week.
You've got a little bit of a range,
Shit.
too.
You're doing great.
It was not last week.
When this airs.
Say that to me. I'm from Seguin, Texas. Like, I knew one Jewish family until I turned 18.
That's when they allowed you to.
I'm from Florida.
Yeah, Florida.
It says Merry Christmas over the town.
Yeah, it's a political statement. Anyways, I would say I'm so close to having a draft that we can start attaching talent to by Christmas. And then I want to make the movie next year. And I have another movie that I'm
And are
already...
you attached to direct?
Yeah, dude. Okay. I'm not writing this shit for someone else.
Yeah. Does she look like
the
a
hell?
chump?
Cheers to that.
Sucker
you
free.
got this. You got this.
Ew, Jesus Christ. Do you want to direct
Cheers
this
to
movie?
that.
Yeah, I'll direct it. Roxy will direct it.
No.
Roxy's like, I would never do that to Carlyn. You don't want to work with me, I'll be a monster. Like, that's not how I envisioned it. I'm going to make this movie. I have another movie that I started outlining that I want to write very quickly because it's like, it feels just, it's happening to me in real life as we speak. And so I want to get that on paper.
Or being
and
a
I can-
podcast
we
guest.
can cameo as podcasters.
Yeah.
for
Amazing. Amazing. Love it. Sold. And I feel like I'm like close to getting, I don't know that this year, I'm just going to say it. I feel like this 2020 is the year I'm going to direct my first episode of TV. I don't know how exactly.
Yes, there you
but
go.
I feel like it's coming and it's going to happen.
You got this.
Fist
Thank
pumping
you.
in the air.
There's something in the air. I feel like it's going to happen.
Next year for me, I actually am not trying to plan too much because I am on a hot streak right now and I don't want to break it. It was... This is kind of cheesy, but it just is what it is right now. It's like the holiday season is getting really near, and I've just been so freaking thankful for everything that's like happened so far, and I'm just really happy with everything, and I'm still learning and growing and messing up and learning, and I just hope I continue to do that with all the projects I continue to hopefully get hired on next year as well. So
Cool.
that's really it.
What about you, Matt?
I'm ready for an episode of TV. I'm with Carlyn. I'm like, so
2020 is our year, baby.
2020. I'm ready.
Can you be my sugar daddy?
Yeah, deal.
Oh my god, yes! I don't have to work.
Kismet's on me.
I don't think you guys know the terms of that agreement, but we'll...
No, that's fine. I just I don't have to work anymore.
But yeah, an episode of TV I think would be nice, and then I'm headed for it, and then I'm producing my wife's movie in early January, which is like pretty exciting.
Amazing.
But I'd love to see my own project kind of come into fruition this year as well. Yeah,
I
so
think Matt's directing a
lot.
feature this year, too. Next year.
Oh, yeah.
like aiming for the summer. We'll see. It's in the works, you guys.
Good.
I'm clawing at it, right?
Amazing.
But I feel like I've said that for a couple of years. This is the year. It's like, it's do or die.
New decade.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's
Someone
gonna
said
happen
that.
for
Exactly.
everyone.
Well, I moved here in 2005, so like almost 15. It'll be 15 years ago next year. And I feel like my dream, when I moved here, I did all these Craigslist jobs, short films, like just the crappiest things you could do. And I would carry all my own C-stands and lights, and I'd shoot things and edit things and do everything for like pretty much free. And I got an SUV because I needed to always load equipment. And my dream was like to not have to ever carry like another C-stand, not have to like get my hands filthy with like cables and
you're
stingers
like, I'm
and
gonna
loose
buy
things
a
and like
crappy small car, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be great.
Why
I
is
want a
this
convertible.
light?
Yeah.
But I think for 2020, I want to like go back to that. I want to get like a Sony A7S. I'm really praying that their next model comes out like within the next couple months, so I don't have to get like a 4-year-old model. And I want to get like, I have some lights, but I think lights have changed in 15 years.
They have.
Get a couple lights, and I just want to like kind of go do like, you know, and even if it's just photography or just something that's just, I just feel like I'm in this
I love this for
rut,
you.
Yeah.
and make things. You know, I'm working on a scripted podcast, and I'm going to record it. I'm talking to actors next week, and
I'll give you a good rate on the
Cool.
microphones.
awesome. Thank you.
I know some people with really monotone voices that might be available.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the podcast is called
It's
Monotone.
just me and Tim.
And this is me
Blurry
missing the
voices.
microphone every time.
No offense to you
We're
guys, but I
perfect.
kind of like invented the monotone thing.
Oh,
So,
man.
That's true.
the best man at my wedding said he thought I was a robot for most of the time he knew me, and everyone at the wedding agreed.
Wow.
So I think I have you
That's a
on
huge
it.
compliment. I'm
I
sure.
mean,
And
low
toast is
dynamicness.
traditionally a little bit of a roast, right? I think that's
No,
part
I
of it.
just hired him that day.
I
I
like
mean,
that
I
plan.
had my robot
It's
maid
like-
do it for me.
Robot
my
maid.
ex-wife.
Yeah,
Wow.
initiate protocol.
I like that. You're going to get your hands dirty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just because I feel like, you know, I come from like an engineering background, and the making of stuff is much more inspiring to me than the thinking about the making of stuff, which you guys might call writing. And so yeah, so I just want to kind of
almost
get
did a
back,
spit take there.
get back into the
Microphone.
getting my hands dirty.
Before we move on, though, the thing I
long
love about
it's
your point, Oren, is that it's a thing that you have very tangible control over. And I feel like a lot of us are like, you know, like thinking about things that we can't really will into existence in quite the same way. There's nothing stopping you from like going to pick up some gear and shooting something yourself.
Yeah,
So-
and kind of to offer a counterpoint to what Roxy said, which is the more you direct, the better you become. Like I kind of think in my career personally, for me, it does.
You've
ebb and
only gotten
flow.
worse. Only worse.
No, but I feel like I get stuck in in things that I do. I love handheld. I love this. I always dolly in, never dolly out. What does that even say? Like, and I try to challenge. I'm like, it's a comedy spot. Let's not move the camera. Let's just try not moving the camera. And then I just end up moving the camera. So I feel like I go in certain directions, and I have to like course correct. So I feel like I get to be a better director, and then a slightly worse director, and then I have to go in the other direction.
Sure, but that's still just trial and error.
Yeah,
And
I'm
growing.
become more experienced.
Hell yeah.
But cool. Well, are you guys cool to hang out for some unpaid endorsements?
Unpaid endorsements.
I thought maybe you feel free if you have anything else you pre-planned to endorse it. But I thought, what's like a thing that when you do have imposter syndrome, when you are feeling kind of down on your creativity, that you do to get yourself like re-inspired? And something that I do, like a lot of times when I direct something and I'll edit it, even if I'm not the editor, I'll edit my own copy and I'll just kind of work on it over and over and over and move the frames and get feedback and do notes. And I feel like it keeps getting worse and worse, and I kind of hate it by the time I'm done with it. But if I ever go back to stuff I directed like 5 years ago and I watch it, I'm like, oh, it's pretty good, you know? And it kind of like makes me happy again. And I look at my storyboards, I'm like, oh, we pretty much shot the storyboards.
I feel like that way about jokes I wrote. Actually, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the exact joke I like.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever get that?
Yeah.
Or like the aesthetic is like, oh yeah, that
That's
looks
so cool. I was just about to say that. I was like, yeah, I visit my old self and I'm like, hey, this person 5 years ago has more of a voice than who I Because you get lost along the way, and you're
yeah,
like,
sure.
all these other voices make you more commercialized. I'm like, I really respect what she was doing back then. So it's nice to find that again.
Yeah, and you also realize that even though you don't like what you just made, it's because you're like so close to it, you know, and you've looked at every frame and
It's probably
criticized everything.
really bad though. Also,
and that too.
For me, when I feel like aware that I'm an imposter and I shouldn't be allowed to do any of this stuff, I go to, my mind goes to a weird place, which is I go, well, we're all imposters. I should remember that we're all imposters. We don't even know what we're doing on this planet. Like we don't know anything. So it's really fine. It doesn't matter.
Right.
None of it
like
matters.
we're not curing cancer.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
It's
fine.
just
Or we are. Maybe we are. Who knows?
Who knows?
We're imposters. We
Yeah.
don't know.
What do you do, Carlyn? Do you ever like write a bad scene and you're like, that scene is bad?
Oh, every day I write a bad scene.
And how do you move on?
Look, I'm kind of a nerd, if I'm being honest. I love screenwriting books. I've read like 15 of them, and I keep them whole. And like today, I dug up a book that I was like, oh shit, I have this book called Writing. Hold on, something about emotion. Crap, I wanted to remember this. Something about emotions in writing, and I was like, this is a stupid book. It had some great tips on character, and I was like, oh yeah, this is so I like to go back to books and just like, if I'm stuck in a script, I'll set it. I'm big on calendars and time, obviously. I will set like 20 minutes on the clock, and I'll let myself reread a part of Robert McKee's story for 20 minutes and see like what parts of that re-inspire me.
Cool.
So I did that. I think it's called Writing for Emotion. I don't remember. I'll figure it out. But a part of it today, I was like, oh, this is really helpful. Because you never know. It kind of like sparks something.
Yeah, like they'll be like, if a character does this, then we should see the opposite character do the opposite thing.
That's
You're like, what
literally one
Yeah.
of the tips. Yeah. Or it's like, how to reveal character. Like, how do people react to the character in a scene? In The Matrix, how do
Right.
people react to
And
this
then you
guy?
just
And you're
copy
like,
the
oh,
scene from The
yeah.
Matrix.
Yeah, and that's a hit.
there's a lot of bullet time in your movie,
Yeah.
Carlyn. I'm pretty
I
excited
love
for it.
bullets. I love men in trench coats.
Leather trench coats.
Yeah, she loves just
My
shooting
comedy
stuff.
about sex ed is just a bunch of people in trench coats.
Yeah, sure.
Slow
I
motion
can't wait
kind
to
of
watch
to it.
this.
Roxy, you feel good about what you were saying with Oren concurring, or do you have an additional thoughts on your?
Oh, when I'm
your-
impostoring?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do a lot of things. I think it's good to find hobbies outside of this, because I know that like,
Oh, sure.
because like this is what we love. Obviously, this is why we're doing it, and we chose to do this thing to hopefully also make money as well. But it gets a little bit too much. I like playing my violin. I like dancing. I like talking to my dog who hates me, and then taking walks. I know it's like I'm the most extroverted introvert you'll ever meet. I like to walk by myself a lot and just like
Yeah,
make
maybe
Los
that's why your
Angeles.
dog hates you.
I know.
Like, take me on one of these walks.
I know,
Roxy.
it's sad.
I'm introverted. Get away from me.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to find other hobbies and explore other things, because you're always growing and you're always allowed to evolve.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Matt, can I just do yours?
I would love to hear what you're gonna say.
Go to film festivals.
No, that's a good one though. That's great.
Yeah, watch other people's horrible movies and be like, wait, I'm way better than that.
But that's the Oren
Damn.
take on going to film festivals. I feel like that's what you love the most about film festivals. For
Oh
sure.
yeah, it's kind of the Tim thing where it's like, wait, these are all imposters, Like when you go to a film festival and you see
Tim
bad
means
stuff.
it on like a cosmic philosophical level. He's like, Tim's saying like, what are we doing here, man? What does life even mean? And you're like,
Tim's like, other people suck.
Yeah.
He
Just
did not
shit
say
on other
that.
people.
Oh my god! As the president of Oren's, I'm sorry, I'm the vice president of Tim's fan club, and I think he meant what Enlo said.
Yeah, but
a
elections are
difference
coming up,
between-
Carlyn. So
That's right.
I have a lot of sway with the.
that's all right, everybody. I would say the other thing I do for imposter syndrome is the thing that I talk about on the show a lot. Is Linda Berry talks about just writing gobbledygook, just writing like the alphabet, just literally the act of putting words on a page, even if they are utter nonsense, especially if they're utter nonsense. If you keep doing that for long enough, eventually the act of physically creating words on a page does something to your brain, and eventually something comes out. And oftentimes it's a thing that you don't have as much control over, and that can be more pure and more interesting, and that can kind of unlock whatever anxiety or apprehension you had about yourself. Like if you just literally are just doing the thing, even just pretending to do it is really intensely powerful.
Cool.
Agree.
Immensely powerful.
Are you a Linda Berry fan, Tim?
Who's Linda Berry?
She's a comic book artist.
I'm not aware of
Who's
her.
kind of like, oh man, she's the best.
How many
say-
pages do you have to write before you start writing something?
It doesn't matter.
Well, for you though.
You know,
For you, though.
Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it's pretty fast. But like it's literally just like that muscle memory. But she I cannot recommend. Linda Berry has like a handful of books about writing and the creative process. She like became a teacher in her like second chapter of her life, but she was like an alt indie comics creator for a long time, and now is like doing deep work on creativity and the nature of creation, and like does like a speaking series and stuff. Google her, Linda Berry, Linda with a Y. She's like
What?
LYNDA.
LYNDA.
She also
You
does
guys-
tutorials on every piece of software. Lynda.com.
Yeah.
Canceled.
I love how,
Literally like
I love how much that
my ultimate endorsement is Linda Berry.
So bad.
trips you up.
Well, cool. Well, if we
No.
want to see, if we want to
Yeah.
follow you guys on social
How
media,
can we
Tim, do
learn
you
more
do
about you guys?
social media?
Sure, I do.
I'm at Venmo.
Yeah, hit me up on Venmo.
Yeah, my Venmo account is.
Carlyn Hudson.
Yeah.
I'm
pretty
on
good.
Instagram. Carlyn
joke,
Hudson.
Carlyn.
Thank you so
I
much.
can't believe we've never had that one before.
My Venmo
Wow.
Venmo account Roxy Shih.
All right. Well,
There we
Instagram
go.
Roxy Shih.
if we
There
get
we go.
$5 total, I'll be psyched.
Oh man.
There we go.
Wait,
I'll be
so-
a tiny bit pissed because we've been promoting this Patreon.
Oh man.
Support our careers.
Do
so
both.
wait,
Do
Tim,
both,
you're
everybody.
at Tim Nakashi
Yep, you on
Heavy,
everything.
heavy branding.
On
site.
Vimeo, all of it.
and NACKASHI.
That's true. Thank you.
And Carlyn with a Y,
Carlyn's with a Y, like George Carlin, rest in power.
like
With
Linda,
a Y.
like Linda Berry.
Like Linda. Who the fuck is Linda? I'm gonna look her up because I
Carlyn.
love this stuff. Down.
I've endorsed her at least 3 times on the show.
Well, I mean, I hear a lot of episodes, but
Sure,
not
sure.
every single one.
I've
Yeah.
never heard her name before, but go on.
That's it. Carlyn Hudson
Okay,
at Instagram
Roxy.
/Venmo.
Roxy.
Roxy.
I just said it, Roxy Shih.
On, but are you
ROXY.
what are you on Instagram and your other places?
That's literally it. It's just Instagram. So it's just ROXYSHIH. Thank you.
Cool, Roxy Shih.
Yeah.
I'm at O'Kaplan on Instagram.
I'm at Mr. Matt Enlow, and the show is at Just Shoot It Pod across all social media. This episode was edited by Sarah Weirda. Our webmaster is Ewan Williams.
And if you have any questions or comments or want to even ask our guests anything, email us. We'll forward it on to them. We know all of them pretty well. justshootitpod@gmail.com. And the music you're listening to is from the artist Desire and the Free Music Archive.
Additional music for our ad music by MusicBed, who also sponsors the show. Thanks, everyone.